Lyra typed rapidly on her floating wrist device, analyzing Ethan's stress level, heartbeat, and breathing pattern. "You are experiencing extreme fear," she said calmly. "Do not panic. Your brain may shut down." Ethan groaned. "Already wants to." Seraphine moved with perfect elegance, lowering her head just slightly. "You must choose wisely," she whispered. "Your choice could shape the future of our empire." Before Ethan could answer anything, dozens of holographic screens suddenly activated around the arena. News networks were broadcasting live. Translators face into 50 alien languages. Headlines flashed everywhere. The human who defeated the unstoppable. The chosen of 3 princesses. Galactic destiny shifting. Earth representative causes political quake. Ethan stared up at the screens and whispered, "I'm on Galactic TV." Dr. Mason's voice crackled in his ear again. "Ambassador, you need to get out of there immediately." Ethan whispered, "How, Mason, how?" The Chancellor slammed his staff on the ground, creating a shockwave of light. "Enough," he said. "We move this discussion to the High Council chamber." Guards surrounded Ethan, escorted him out of the arena. The crowd continued shouting, wanting answers, wanting drama, wanting a winner. Princess Kayla followed with bold footsteps. Princess Lyra floated behind with gentle grace. Princess Seraphine walked like the galaxy belonged to her. Ethan walked in the middle like a prisoner heading toward his own execution. As they moved through the huge corridors of the palace, aliens stared at Ethan from every angle. Some cheered, some bowed, some looked jealous. Some recorded him with glowing devices. Ethan felt like a rare animal in a zoo, a very scared animal. The council chamber was massive, shaped like a giant glowing crystal flower. At its center was a round table made of living stone that pulsed with slow heartbeats. Ethan sat in a tall chair too big for him, feeling like a child at a teacher's desk. The princesses sat around him, each watching him closely. Chancellor Vest called the meeting to order. "The human ambassador," he announced, "must explain the nature of his victory." Ethan raised a shaking hand. "I didn't win," he said. "I panicked, I screamed, he slipped, the axe hit him, and I thought I was going to die." Lyra nodded, typing again. "His story aligns with his biological readings," she said. "It was not intentional." Kayla stood up sharply. "But courage is courage," she said. "He faced death with spirit." Seraphine leaned forward. "The law does not care how he won," she said calmly. "Only that he won." The council murmured, divided. Some agreed with Kayla, some with Lyra, some with Seraphine. Some even whispered that all 3 princesses fighting over a human was an insult to royal dignity. Ethan felt sweat dripping down his neck. He whispered, "Please, don't start a war over me." Chancellor Vesk raised his hand. "The law demands a decision within 7 cycles," he said. "In 7 cycles, the human must choose 1 princess." Kayla nodded eagerly. Lyra observed carefully. Seraphine smiled like she already knew the outcome. Ethan almost fainted. 7 cycles. That was barely a week. And to make matters worse, the Chancellor added one final sentence. "Until the decision is made, the human ambassador will remain under royal observation." Ethan blinked. "Observation," he repeated softly. Seraphine gave him a slow smile. Kayla cracked her knuckles with excitement. Lyra adjusted her glowing device. And Ethan finally realized the truth. He was about to be stuck with all 3 princesses for an entire week. A week that could break the galaxy. Or break him first. Ethan's first day under royal observation began with pure chaos. He woke up in a guest chamber the size of a football field, surrounded by golden walls and floating lights that hummed softly like bees. He groaned and covered his face with a pillow, wishing he could hide from the entire galaxy. But hiding was impossible, because the 3 princesses were already waiting outside his door. Kayla stood with her arms crossed, tapping her foot impatiently. Lyra floated slightly above the ground, her glowing robes shifting like tiny stars. Seraphine was calm, elegant, and smiling in a way that made Ethan feel very nervous. The moment the door opened, all 3 turned toward him with laser focus. Kayla stepped forward first. "Human Ethan," she declared loudly. "Today I will train you in warrior tradition." Ethan almost choked. "Train me," he squeaked. "Please, no." Lyra raised one eyebrow. "That is unnecessary," she said. "I have arranged a full biological scan for him today. Ethan stepped back instantly. Scanned, he said, "That sounds dangerous." Seraphine lifted her hand, silencing both princesses without saying a word. "The human will meet the High Council with me," she said smoothly. "He must learn political customs." Ethan closed his eyes, praying for Earth to send rescue ships right now. Kayla's armor sparked. Lyra's lights flickered. Seraphine's calm smile grew sharper. The rivalry had begun. The three princesses argued immediately. Kayla insisted Ethan needed strength. Lyra insisted he needed scientific understanding. Seraphine insisted he needed political guidance. Ethan insisted he needed sleep, but nobody heard him. Their voices echoed across the marble hallway, growing louder and more competitive. Kayla slammed her fist into her palm. "He will train with me." Lyra waved her glowing device. "Incorrect. He must be analyzed first." Seraphine tilted her head. "You may both leave. I will handle him." Ethan watched like a terrified spectator as three powerful royal figures argued over him like kids fighting over a toy. He whispered to himself, "I'm going to die before the week ends." Finally, the Chancellor appeared and cleared his throat loudly. "All three of you will share responsibility," he said, "to prevent political conflict." Kayla smirked proudly. Lyra nodded logically. Seraphine's eyes narrowed slightly, but she accepted it. Ethan sighed, because that meant exactly what it sounded like. He was stuck with all three princesses at once. Kayla dragged Ethan to a giant arena made of burning stone. She handed him a practice spear that was almost twice his height. Ethan tried to lift it but fell backward immediately. Kayla burst out laughing, the loud warrior kind of laugh that shook the room. "You have spirit," she said, "but no strength," Ethan groaned. "Yes, thank you for noticing." Kayla began showing him moves, slicing through the air with impossible speed. Ethan tried to copy her and accidentally threw the spear behind him. It flew past three guards, knocked over a statue, and nearly hit a floating drone. The drone beeped angrily at him. Kayla laughed even harder. "You fight like a scared bird," she said proudly. "I like it." Ethan muttered, "Why does she like that?" Before he could embarrass himself further, Lyra appeared in a flash of blue light. "Training is over," she said. "He is needed for scientific evaluation," Kayla growled. But Lyra simply tapped her wrist device, creating a glowing doorway. Ethan was pulled through it like a vacuum cleaner grabbed him. Lyra's laboratory was huge, filled with floating screens, glowing tubes, and tiny robot drones that zoomed in circles. The whole room looked like a mix of hospital, a spaceship, and a toy store. Ethan gulped nervously. Lyra gestured for him to step onto a platform. "Do not worry," she said softly. "This will only scan your biological data." Ethan stepped on a platform very carefully. The platform immediately lifted him into the air. He screamed. Lyra wrote notes calmly. "Excellent lung capacity," she said. Ethan yelled louder. "I'm not doing this willingly." Robotic arms began scanning his bones, blood, muscles, and heart rate. Ethan shook with fear while Lyra observed quietly. "He is fragile," Lyra said, "but interesting." He whispered, "Thank you, I think." Before she could continue, the lab doors opened silently. Seraphine walked in like she owned the room. She smiled gently. "His scientific session is complete." Lyra frowned. "No, it is not." Seraphine touched the glowing control panel, and the platform lowered Ethan safely to the ground. Lyra glared but could not argue with royal authority. Seraphine took Ethan to the royal diplomatic chamber. The room was filled with floating golden rings displaying maps, cultures, and histories. Ethan tried to pay attention, but his mind was still shaking from Kayla's training and Lyra's lab tests. Seraphine stood behind him, guiding him through etiquette lessons. "When you bow to a royal leader," she said, "hold eye contact for 2 seconds." Ethan tried it and almost fell forward. Seraphine caught him by the arm, steadying him effortlessly. "You are clumsy," she said softly, "but not hopeless." Ethan muttered, "That's the nicest thing someone said to me today." She leaned closer. "You must learn quickly," she whispered. "The council is watching every move we make." Before Ethan could respond, the doors burst open again. Kayla stomped in. "My turn again." Lyra stepped in behind her. "Incorrect. I must complete his scans." Seraphine sighed deeply as the rivalry started again. The three princesses surrounded him like competing suns. Ethan covered his face with both hands and whispered, "I just want to go home." But home was far away, and the princess rivalry was only getting started. Much worse, much louder, much more dangerous. Ethan woke up the next morning feeling like his soul had been kicked down 20 flights of stairs. His body ached from Kayla's training. His brain hurt from Lyra's scanning. And his nerves were completely destroyed by Seraphine's political lessons. He lay on his giant guest bed staring at the ceiling, whispering, "I cannot survive 6 more days of this." Outside his door, he could already hear the princesses arguing. Kayla wanted combat practice. Lyra wanted more tests. Seraphine wanted diplomatic training. Ethan wanted silence, but silence was impossible. Suddenly his ear device buzzed. "Ambassador, this is Mason." His human assistant whispered, "You need to meet me in a human safe room now." Ethan jumped up from his bed like a cat touched by electricity. Finally, someone from Earth was going to help him. He slipped past the guards while the princesses continued shouting about their precious turn order. Kayla stomped the floor. Lyra calculated probabilities of winning him. And Seraphine tried to silence both with political threats. Ethan hurried down a long, glowing hallway, praying none of them noticed he was missing. The human safe room was deep underground, built secretly by the Earth Embassy team. Ethan entered the chamber to find Dr. Mason, 2 engineers, and 3 communication specialists pacing nervously. The moment they saw Ethan, they looked relieved, or maybe they looked terrified, or both. Mason rushed forward, grabbing Ethan by the shoulders. "Ambassador, this situation is out of control," Mason said. "No kidding." Ethan whispered back, "I'm being fought over like a rare Pokemon card." The engineers pulled up holographic screens showing alien news broadcasts of Ethan's accidental victory. Every screen showed dramatic edited versions of fight. Some showed slow motion, some added fire effects, some even added heroic music. Ethan covered his face. "They made me look like a superhero." Mason pointed at the main screen. "Look at this," he said. Alien commentators argued about which princess Ethan would choose. Bets were being placed across the galaxy. Merchants were selling Team Kayla, Team Lyra, and Team Seraphine merchandise. Ethan nearly fainted. "I'm a meme," he whispered. "Across space." Mason cleared his throat. "Ambassador, we must fix this before Earth becomes part of a royal marriage war." Ethan nodded rapidly. Yes. How we fix it?" One engineer zoomed out the map, showing how many alien kingdoms were reacting. Some were excited. Some were angry. Some were preparing political strategies. And one very distant empire had already sent a message warning that if Ethan chose the wrong princess, it could trigger a galactic diplomatic nightmare. Ethan felt dizziness again. "All this because I slipped on a rock," he whispered weakly. Mason sighed, rubbing his forehead. "We need a plan," he said. "A human plan." Ethan sat down at a long table, taking a shaky breath. "Okay," he said. "First idea. Tell them the fight was a mistake." One of the specialists shook his head quickly. "That won't work," she said. "The Varkalon Empire worships the concept of fate. The moment you stepped into that arena, they believed destiny was guiding you." Ethan groaned loudly. "So my clumsiness is destiny?" The specialist nodded. "Yes, apparently." Mason leaned close, speaking in a low, tense voice. "Ambassador, you must show the council that the duel was invalid. If we prove the rules were broken, the victory is canceled." Ethan's eyes widened with hope for the first time in days. Yes, that's it," he whispered. "If my victory is canceled, the princess claims disappear." The engineers pulled up the recorded footage of the duel. They replayed Gortha's dramatic slip, fall, and self-defeat in slow motion. Ethan watched himself waving the ceremonial staff like an idiot. The entire room was silent. One engineer whispered, "Yeah, we need to hide this." Mason cleared his throat. "We present this footage to the council and argue the duel was invalid due to unsafe floor conditions." Ethan raised a hand. "Wait," he said. "You want me to tell the High Council that their sacred arena floor is defective?" Everyone fell silent again. Then one engineer whispered, "Yes." Ethan closed his eyes and whispered, "I'm so dead." Before they could form a better plan, the room suddenly shook violently. The lights flickered, alarms blared, and the floor vibrated under their feet. Impact detected. A robotic voice announced, "Unidentified energy pulse near the palace." Mason looked at Ethan with wide eyes. "Ambassador, something's happening." Suddenly the door flew open. And Princess Kayla stormed in, armor blazing with heat. "Human," she said, "you must come with me now." Lyra appeared behind her in a flash of blue light, holding a device filled with rapidly blinking symbols. "Energy signatures are hostile," she said. "We must move him to safety." Then Seraphine stepped into the doorway with guard behind her. Her expression was cold and serious. "Someone is attacking the palace," she said, "and they are targeting the human." Ethan's stomach twisted painfully. "What?" he whispered. "Why me?" Seraphine looked at him with sharp eyes. "Because your existence is changing political balance," she said. "Some factions want you removed." Ethan froze in fear. The princesses surrounded him protectively, forming a triangle shield around him. Kayla drew her burning sword. Lyra activated 3 floating drones that buzzed around Ethan like guardians. Seraphine prepared a barrier of shining energy that wrapped around all 4 of them. Mason shouted from behind the table, "Ambassador, don't die. Earth can't afford that." Ethan shouted back, "I'm trying not to." The alarms grew louder, and the hallway outside filled with running guards. Explosions shook the walls, and the floor lit up with emergency red lights. For the first time since he arrived, Ethan was not the center of a love triangle or a political game. He was the center of a direct threat. Someone wanted him gone. Someone dangerous. Someone hidden. Kayla grabbed Ethan's arm, pulling him toward the evacuation corridor. "We must move," she said. "Now." Lyra checked her device and whispered, "The attacker! They're getting closer." Seraphine looked at Ethan with intensity. "Whoever is doing this knows your choice will decide the future of the Empire, and they want to control it by force." Ethan's heart pounded like a drum in his chest. He had come here for peace. He had caused chaos, and now someone wanted him dead. This was no longer about romance or rivalry. This was survival, and the nightmare was only beginning. The palace shook again as Ethan ran down the glowing evacuation hall, surrounded by the 3 princesses. Red alarms flashed across the ceiling like angry lightning. Guards rushed past him, weapons ready, shouting orders in languages Ethan could not understand. Ethan felt like his legs were made of jelly, but fear forced him to keep moving. Kayla ran ahead, slicing through a fallen metal barrier with her burning sword. Sparks exploded everywhere, filling the air with heat and smoke. "Move fast," she shouted. "The enemy is already inside the palace." Lyra tapped her wrist of ice, sending 3 drones flying forward to skin the path. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were shaking. "I detect cloaked intruders," she said. "They are moving toward Ethan's position." Seraphine raised a shimmering golden barrier behind them, blocking the rear pathway. Her face was pale but steady. "They are trained assassins," she said. "Someone hired professionals." Ethan's heart felt like it was trying to escape his chest. Professionals meant this wasn't a warning. It was an execution attempt. Suddenly, a violent boom exploded from the hallway behind them. The golden barrier trembled, cracked, then shattered into glittering light. A sharp wave of hot wind blasted forward, knocking Ethan off his feet. Kayla grabbed his arm and pulled him up instantly. "Stay close," she commanded. "Don't fall again." Ethan nodded quickly, terrified. He felt like a scared mouse surrounded by 3 angry lions protecting him. He wasn't sure if that made things better or worse. The group reached an intersection where the hallway split into 3 glowing tunnels. Lyra stepped forward, scanning each path rapidly. Her drone projected ghost-like holograms showing blurry enemy shapes. "They are coming from the west wing and the lower tunnels," she said. "We only have one safe route left." Before she could point, a metallic spear shot from the ceiling with a loud crack. It stabbed the floor right where Ethan had been standing 1 second ago. The spear was long, black, and pulsing with dark purple light. Kayla recognized it instantly, her face darkening. "Shadow Legion weapons," she whispered. "That means this attack is not political." Seraphine finished the sentence for her. "It's war." Ethan gasped. "Why would anyone start a war because of me?" Seraphine turned to him. "Because you are a key piece on the board," she said. "A piece that could decide which royal family gains power." Ethan wanted to scream. "I didn't ask for any of this," he said weakly. "No one on Earth trained me for alien politics." Another explosion rocked the hallway, and black armored figures appeared in the distance. Their armor was dark as night, their helmets shaped like skulls with glowing red slits for eyes. The Shadow Legion moved like silent ghosts, fast and deadly. Kayla jumped forward with a roar, swinging her flaming sword in a wide arc. The heat wave forced the assassins back, giving them a small window to escape. Lyra grabbed Ethan's hand and pulled him toward the right tunnel. "Come now," she said. "We must reach the safe chamber." Seraphine created another barrier as they ran, but it flickered dangerously. She was growing tired. Her powers were strong, but not endless. The group reached a tall door covered in strange, glowing patterns. Lyra placed her hand on the panel, and the door slid open with a deep humming sound. Inside was a small chamber with thick walls and glowing energy locks. It looked like a bunker designed for royalty. Ethan hurried inside, panting and shaking. The princesses followed, sealing the door behind them. For a moment, everything fell silent. Only Ethan's heavy breathing filled the air. Kayla checked the chamber walls. "These walls can hold against heavy attacks," she said. "We have a little time." Lyra approached Ethan slowly, her voice soft. "Ambassador," she said, "you must listen carefully now." Ethan swallowed hard, nodding. For the first time all day, the three princesses were not fighting each other. They were united, serious, and scared. Lyra projected a hologram of the planet, showing red marks appearing all around the palace. "These signals are not random," she said. "Someone planned this attack for weeks." Seraphine folded her arms tightly. "And the target is specifically you." Ethan sank to the floor, burying his face in his hands. "I just wanted peace talks," he whispered. "This is the worst business trip in human history." Suddenly, the chamber lights flickered again. The screen above them changed, showing a message in a strange alien script. Lyra's eyes widened in shock as she translated. "The Shadow Legion sends this warning," she said. "The human must be delivered to us before sunrise or the Empire falls." Kayla slammed her fist into the wall. "They dare threaten the Empire." Seraphine looked at Ethan with new fear and determination. "You are now the center of a galactic conflict," she said. "If we lose you, the balance collapses." Ethan stared at her with horror. "So they want me alive?" he asked. Seraphine shook her head slowly. "No," she whispered. "They want control." Lyra leaned down beside him, her voice quiet. "We cannot let them take you." Suddenly, the chamber door shook violently, as if something massive slammed into it. Ethan jumped in terror. Cracks appeared along the glowing edges of the door. A deep metallic voice echoed from outside. "Open the door," it growled, "or we open it for you." The princesses stood between Ethan and the door, ready to fight. Ethan felt sweat drip down his back. He had never been so scared in his life. This was no longer about a love triangle or marriage claims. This was a battle for survival, and the enemy was breaking in. The door shook again, harder this time. Ethan whispered, "What do we do?" Kayla raised her sword. Lyra activated her drones. Seraphine lifted her glowing hands. "We fight," Seraphine said, "and we do not let them take you." Then the door began to crack open, and the shadows poured in. The chamber door ripped open with a deafening metallic scream. Shadows spilled into the room like living smoke, twisting and crawling across the floor. Ethan froze in terror as tall, armored assassins stepped to the broken doorway, their skull-like helmets glowing with red lines. Kayla charged forward with a roar, her flaming sword lighting up the room like a miniature sun. She swung fast, striking armor and sending sparks flying across the chamber. Lyra released her drones, which fired, bright blue lasers that sliced through the shadows. Seraphine lifted her hands, creating a shimmering wall of golden energy that pushed several attackers back. But more kept coming, many more. Ethan scrambled behind a fallen pillar, shaking so hard he could barely breathe. Every sound felt too loud, and every shadow felt alive. He whispered, "I should be at home eating noodles." Kayla kicked an attacker so hard that his armor dented like crushed metal. Lyra hacked into the assassins' comm signals, forcing their helmets to flicker and glitch. Seraphine used her remaining strength to form a protective bubble around Ethan. But the bubble was already cracking from the pressure of incoming attacks. One Shadow Legion warrior stepped forward, larger than the rest. His armor was marked with red symbols, and his voice echoed like thunder inside a cave. "Human," he growled, "you will come with us." Ethan shook his head violently. "And no," he said, though it came out barely as a whisper. Kayla leaped in front of the large warrior, crossing her sword with his massive blade. Heat and sparks exploded from the clash. The force of the impact pushed Ethan backward, nearly knocking him over. Lyra called out, "Kayla, his armor is shielded at 90%. Kayla shouted back, "I don't care, he's going down." Seraphine raised her hand, sending a golden wave that hit the large warrior, but it only slowed him for a moment. He stepped forward again, stronger, heavier, unstoppable. Ethan felt panic rising like fire in his chest. "This is my fault," he whispered. "They're getting hurt because of me." Lyra suddenly slid beside him, pulling out a small silver device from her belt. "Ambassador, listen to me," she said quickly. "This device is a distress beacon. It calls for help from any allied ship nearby." Ethan blinked in fear and confusion. "Then use it," he said. Lyra shook her head. "I cannot," she said. "My signature permissions are blocked. The beacon needs a human representative." Ethan stared at the device like it was a live cobra. "You want me to activate something powerful while assassins are trying to kill me?" Lyra nodded. "Yes." Her voice was calm but desperate. Ethan swallowed hard, grabbed the device, and pressed the center button. A bright blue pulse shot into the air like a flare. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the entire palace shook again, but this time, not from explosions, from something huge entering the atmosphere. A loud, thunderous sound echoed across the world. All the assassins paused, turned their heads upward as if sensing a threat. Kayla smirked despite the chaos. "Looks like someone answered the call," she said. Outside the palace, a massive ship descended from the sky, glowing with human technology, sharp metallic wings, and blue thrusters. Earth's galactic defense cruiser, the biggest human ship in the region. The Shadow Legion helmets flickered in fear. They were powerful, but they were not ready to face a cruiser. A booming voice echoed through all communication channels. "This is the Earth Defense Fleet. All hostile forces, stand down or be neutralized." The assassins hesitated, but only for a moment. The large commander stepped forward, raising his sword toward Ethan. "Take the human," he commanded. "Retreat is not an option." Kayla roared and slammed her sword down, crackling with flame. Lyra triggered her drones to form a defensive ring. Seraphine summoned the last of her energy, her aura brightening like a sun about to explode. Together, the three princesses stood between Ethan and the entire Shadow Legion squad. The final battle began, the room filled with heat, lasers, smoke, and energy waves. Ethan felt helpless, trapped, and terrified, yet he refused to run. Not anymore. For the first time, he stepped forward, grabbing a broken metal rod from the floor. He wasn't strong, he wasn't trained, but he couldn't just hide while three princesses risked their lives. The large Shadow Commander swung his blade at Seraphine. Ethan rushed forward and hit the commander's arm with the metal rod. It did nothing, absolutely nothing, but it distracted the commander for one small second, a very important second. Kayla took that moment and slashed through the commander's armor, weakening his energy core. Lyra's drones fired a coordinated burst into the exposed gap. Seraphine released a final golden shockwave, blasting him backward. The commander fell with a heavy crash, cracking the floor under him. The remaining assassins froze, their leader defeated. In a matter of seconds, the Earth cruiser's drones stormed the palace, forcing the assassins to retreat into shadows and vanish. Silence filled the chamber. Ethan dropped the metal rod and fell to his knees. His body shook, his heart raced, but he was alive. Kayla knelt beside him, placing a warm, armored hand on his shoulder. "You fought with courage," she said. Lyra offered him water, her drone hovering above like a worried pet. "You made the correct decision activating the beacon," she said. Seraphine sat beside him, her energy dim and exhausted. "You saved us all with that distraction," she said softly, "even if it looked ridiculous." Ethan laughed weakly. "That's my specialty," he said, "being ridiculous." Hours later, the palace was secured, and the princesses gathered with Ethan in the main council hall. The High Council arrived, furious about the attack, but when they learned the Shadow Legion targeted Ethan, something changed. The council no longer viewed him as a romantic prize. They saw him as a symbol of unity, a bridge between empires. The princesses stood before the council proudly. Kayla said, "Ethan fought beside us," Lyra said. "He made decisions that saved lives," Seraphine said. "He is more than our claim." Ethan stepped forward, still shaky but determined. "I did not come here to start wars," he said. I came for peace, and I will continue to work with all three princesses to build peace between our worlds." The council discussed for a long time, whispering and debating. Finally, they returned with decision. "The duel victory is void," the council ruled. "No princess owns a human ambassador." Ethan nearly collapsed with relief. He wanted to cry, laugh, and sleep for 12 years. But then Kayla stepped forward, smiling confidently. "That changes nothing," she said. "I still choose to fight by his side." Lyra adjusted her glasses, her voice soft and sincere. "I choose to guide him, learn with him, and protect him." Seraphine looked at Ethan with gentle eyes. "I choose to stand with him, not by law, but by will." Ethan blinked in shock. "So, you still want to be around me?" The three princesses smiled. "Yes," they said together. Ethan sighed. "Great," he murmured. "My life is still chaos." But deep inside, for the first time since the disastrous duel, he felt something warm, powerful, and strange. He felt hope. He looked at the three princesses standing proudly beside him, and he whispered, "Okay, let's change this galaxy together." And so the story ended not with marriage, not with a war, but with an alliance, a new beginning, and a very confused human stuck with three alien princesses who refused to leave him alone. The third princess walked with the slow, perfect grace of someone trained since birth to control entire kingdoms. Her silver gown flowed like water made of light. Her purple eyes were sharp, intelligent, and extremely dangerous. This was Princess Seraphine, the future political ruler of the Varkalon Empire. Her smile was calm, elegant, and just a little frightening. "A warrior who wins without striking," she said. "A symbol of destiny." Ethan froze, because her gaze felt like she already owned him. The three princesses stopped in front of him, forming a triangle around his very confused body. The arena grew quiet, as if everyone waited for Galaxy to change shape. Kayla was the first to speak. "Human Ethan Ward," she said boldly. "By the law of combat honor, I claim you." Ethan blinked hard, wondering if he heard that wrong. "Claim me? For what? To fight, to train, to keep as a pet?" Before he could respond, Princess Lyra lifted one finger. "I also claim him," she said. "His biology, his probability, his unexpected victory. These demand deep scientific bonding." Ethan stepped back again. "Bonding," he whispered, shaking. Princess Seraphine slowly placed a hand over her heart. "I claim him for the Empire," she said. "A man who wins through fate is valuable, and I will not allow the other houses to take him." The crowd exploded into chaos again. Some shouted Kayla's name. Others screamed for Lyra. Others bowed to Seraphine. It was like being trapped inside three storms at once, each storm trying to pull him in a different direction. Ethan raised his hands quickly. "Wait, I think you misunderstand. I did not fight," he slipped. But his voice was drowned by thousands of cheering aliens. Kayla stepped closer, her fiery armor glowing. "You showed courage," she said firmly. "That is enough?" Lyra adjusted her glowing wrist of ice. "His reaction time was impressive," Ethan said. "My reaction time was screaming," Seraphine smiled. "You defeated the champion. The reason does not matter." Ethan wanted to cry or disappear or wake up from this nightmare. His human assistant, Dr. Mason, was watching from far above in the stands, holding his head with both hands. Their communication device buzzed in Ethan's ear. "Ambassador, whatever you do not insult any princess," Mason whispered desperately. Ethan whispered back, "I cannot even breathe without upsetting someone." Kayla suddenly dropped to one knee, shocking the entire arena. "I offer him my warrior's vow," she said. Hitting her chest with her fist, the crowd screamed, because this vow was extremely rare and serious. Lyra touched the ground with her fingertips, sending out a ring of soft blue light. "I offer him my scientific oath," she said. "He will be protected under my star division." Seraphine raised both hands slowly, and the golden banners of the Empire unfurled behind her like giant wings. "I offer him the Imperial Pact," she declared. Even the guards gasped at this one. No one simply offered the Imperial Pact. It was the highest political bond in the Empire, meant only for rulers or legendary heroes. Ethan felt dizzy. 3 vows, 3 claims, 3 princesses, all focused on one terrified human who did not even know how to hold a weapon properly. The announcer appeared again, stumbling as he approached. "The princesses, they all claim the victor," he stuttered. The law demands a selection. Ethan blinked rapidly. A selection, he repeated. The announcer swallowed hard. Yes, the human must choose which princess he accepts. The arena became dead silent again. Every alien leaned forward, breathless. 3 princesses stared at him with immense expectation. Ethan whispered, "Oh no, I am so dead." He had survived the duel by accident, but now, choosing the wrong princess might start a galactic war, and Ethan Ward, Earth's unlucky ambassador, had no idea how to escape, not knowing that things were about to get even more complicated. Much, much worse. The moment the announcer said Ethan must choose a princess, the entire arena turned into a boiling storm of noise. Shouts echoed across the chamber. Banners waved, and different alien houses argued fiercely with each other. Some cheered for Kayla, some for Lyra, some for Seraphine, and others simply screamed because they loved chaos. Ethan stood frozen in the center, wishing he could evaporate into thin air. He took a step backward, but all 3 princesses stepped forward at the same time. Kayla with her fiery armor, Lyra with her glowing star robes, and Seraphine with her royal silver gown. It felt like 3 suns were burning around him, each demanding attention. Ethan whispered, "Please don't come closer." But they came closer anyway. 2 guards rushed forward to protect Ethan, but Seraphine raised her finger. The guards froze instantly, as if invisible chains wrapped around them. Her authority was absolute in the Empire. Ethan swallowed hard, realizing he was alone in the center of a political storm. A loud voice echoed to the hall. The council would decide this matter. High Chancellor Vesk, an ancient alien with crystal horns and glowing runic skin, stepped onto the arena platform. His presence immediately silenced thousands of beings. Chancellor Vesk pointed at Ethan with a long crystal staff. "You human," he said, "have caused a great disturbance." Ethan threw his hands up. "It was an accident. He slipped, I swear." But a crowd booed because they preferred the heroic version of the story. Princess Kayla even nodded proudly, as if she wanted everyone to keep believing the heroic version. The Chancellor sighed deeply. "Your victory, accidental or not, activates ancient law," he said. Lyra stepped forward, glowing softly. "Article 9 Delta," she added. Seraphine raised her chin. "The right of royal claim." The Chancellor nodded slowly. 3 princesses claim you," he said. "The galaxy watches. And your choice can cause peace or war." Ethan felt his knees weaken, war over him. A man who couldn't even win a pillow fight back on Earth, he whispered, "I don't want to choose anyone." That made the arena explode again. Some aliens laughed in shock, others gasped loudly, and some shouted angrily. Rejecting a princess was a huge insult in many cultures. Rejecting 3 was basically suicide. Kayla stepped close enough for Ethan to feel the heat of her armor. "You cannot refuse," she said firmly. "A warrior's vow is sacred,"